Welcome back to my channel. And is it not interesting and very infuriating, and should I say demeaning, for some Fulani elites to come out that no matter what the southern governors try to do towards restructuring, that if they do not sit and have conversations with the Fulani leaders, that it is just an exercise in futility. Listen to what this professor has to say, then we'll continue our analysis.
Ask all those, whatever, 13, 15 governors that met in that hotel. Was there any of the Fulani leaders consulted? Any of the Fulani leaders consulted? You must sit down and talk with people you are making laws for. None of those governors have sat down with Fulani leaders in wherever they are and tell them what we're planning to do, or what we're going to do, or what alternatives are there. And then they're sitting down there and making laws.
Welcome back. That is Professor Yusuf, a very well-known Fulani bandits negotiator who came to limelight under Buhari. He has that to say. A daring statement, a infuriating statement, a condescending one indeed. I don't blame him. The only person I blame is Lord Lugard that brought us in this evil contraption. And here I go again when I call you guys sons and daughters of Lord Lugard. The other day when we were talking about the constitutional amendment, a son of El-Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, Bello El-Rufai, said the idea of rotating the presidencies among the 6 regions in Nigeria is not visible. He said, what will happen when a man from the north, west, suddenly dies, just like Umar Yar'Adua? That will you now go to another region? You see how they bring problems to every solution we in the other parts of the country bring forward. They do this intentionally because they do not want to live, neither do they want to lose their relevance in the corridors of power. So I ask again, for how long would we remain in this contraption that we need to always have our head bowed down until the Fulani's accept that we as a nation must get ourselves restructured? Because it is apparent that today in the Nigerian politics, all the voices that you can see that are so loud, aggressive from the north against the president of the day, just as in the past against Jonathan, against who again? Obasanjo, who have been southern presidents, they all have been Fulani oligarchs. They were told by the colonial masters that they are the ones that must be the custodian of the political powers. And there must never be a time that the southerners with the middle belt will come together in agreement to speak in one voice. We all know that the southern governors have always been pushing for what we call resource control, state security. You know, while we keep pushing for this, when it gets to that Senate, you go and check the numbers of senators from the north. Mostly the region that has the highest numbers of senators are the north. And we all know that in the north, the Fulani's have taken over virtually all the political positions. That's simple as that. They were so strategic in that. So how do we reverse it? Of course, we have to be intentional and we have to agree. We have to compromise in our differences in the south and the middle belt, even though we do not agree in the south, but until we begin to see that the common enemy that we have are just those elements in the core north who have the audacity to tell us that we will never have an headway until, of course, the Fulani's accept and agree to it, that they are the pillar, the spine holding the structure of this country, and unless they are bent or they agree to bend, that nothing will happen or nothing will be affected. You see, the problem I have is the presidents of the southerners and mostly our southern governors, they are all cowards, because when they need to rise up, they are always not found to do so. We have seen how under Jonathan, the North conspired. They brought in insecurity. All right. And they were not doing this locally alone. They even went as far as international borders. What they did, how they brought the government of the day down. In fact, they wanted to even buy Jonathan. There was an attack on his convoy. Maybe some of you have forgotten. I think it was in 2012 or 2013. They were rebellious. And here we are again in 2025, going to 2026. Those voices of the Fulani oligarchs are already speaking. Yesterday, I saw Malami screaming, right? I saw Malami screaming that they have the constitutional right to protect themselves. Please, where in the Nigerian constitution are the Fulani's encouraged or guaranteed to protect themselves? Are we in America? It is the government that must protect you. The constitution has never said you have to protect yourself. I saw Malami yesterday, the former attorney general of the federation under Buhari. This was a man who abused everybody's human right, from the unjust incarceration of Showore to Mazinam Kanu to Sode Gboho. This was a man who abused the law of the land. Malami, who even went to Western media and told the Western media that people like Showore and Mazinam Kanu, who are shouting for revolution, needs to rot in jail. But yesterday we saw him, in his state. I think it's in Kebbi or so, if I'm not mistaken, at Kebbi or Gombe. Because his convoy was attacked. He was screaming, we now have the right to protect. This is the same thing Mazinam Kanu said when Malami and Buhari failed to give them the security apparatus they need to protect themselves against the Fulani herders who were invading their farms in the eastern region. The same Malami today, how time moves fast and how the table turns quickly, is now screaming that the Nigerian people, that most importantly the Fulani's, have every right to protect themselves. You can see how anarchous they can be whenever they are out of power. The same thing they did against Jonathan, the same thing they want to do against Tinubu, the same thing they will eventually do against any other southern president that is on that seat of presidency. Whenever you are there, you begin to think out with them, you begin to try to reposition them to exactly where they belong. They will deploy insecurity, they will deploy threats and anarchy against your government, and in fact they might attack your convoy just like they did with Jonathan in 2012, 2013, as confirmed by Dati Baba Ahmed. So you will see that until then, we the South, we begin to speak to our leaders, because our leaders are largely cowards. Yes, our leaders, they are largely cowards. Because if they are not cowards, the South has more population than the North. It is undebatable. The southern part of this country, right there into the middle belt, have more population than the core North. But how come we have so many leaders who are cowards, who will rather have their tail between their two legs? Leaders who have no scrotum. They have no balls in their scrotum. Why? Those leaders in the South who were very vocal, the likes of Ugbo and Mazinam Kanu, today they have been turned to something else. Some incarcerated. Some have been turned to lame dogs. Some they saw death, koro with their two eyes, they saw death. They had to leave the agitation because they felt, why is the southern people, the southern governors, not behind them? I mean, we saw how the bandits are being celebrated. Just in case you have not seen that video, some bandits were celebrated. I saw the video yesterday and I was like ridiculously marveled, like interesting. Little wonder I used to say that I have never seen the sheikhs the emirs, the sultan, come out and vehemently speak against banditry. I mean, youths of the north were snapping selfie with known bandits. They drove into the town and they were celebrating with them like they were stars, like they were warriors who just came back from battle. It's so crazy. Watch the video together, that will continue our analysis. Welcome back. Look at what we have there. And then they expect insecurity to end. They know what they are doing. My people, they know what they are doing. No wonder they are threatening. No wonder they are threatening that if you move mad, that they can move madder. No wonder they are threatening. I want to believe that community that we just watched together has a senator. That community that we just watched together has a DPO of police. That community that we just watched together has a GOC. Okay? A grand officer or commanding officer or whatever the terminology they use. That community that we just watched is within this Nigerian territory. But somehow they will tell you that the Nigerian army is being overpowered. Somehow they will tell you the insecurity, we need to keep pumping money into it. Somehow they will tell you that the Nigerian government cannot tackle insecurity using kinetic energy, that we need to negotiate and bargain for them. Imagine that we have to have a sit down and do what? Have a bargain. That it is only when we have that bargain that the insecurity will end. So you know they know what they are doing. And all their leaders, traditional leaders and political leaders, they are all complicit. I tell you today that if those bandits, all of them, are wiped out, how the northern leaders become vulnerable? They become exposed like a featherless chicken. Hence the reason why they will never want insecurity in the north to end, because they use it as a tool for negotiation, for suppression, okay, for intimidation, and for threat against any president that gets in there that begins to talk about restructuring of this country. And that is what I want all of you to see and watch now. Let's watch this together.
Constitutional aspect. I think once eligible, regardless of the zone you are from, you are entitled to run for president if you feel qualified, or vice president. That's point one. So does that infringe on the constitutional right of a candidate or a citizen to participate in a democracy? Now, Mr. Speaker, this is also important because Honorable Clement's point about tackling an injustice is true. It is quite clear to those that want to know that as long as certain people from certain area in this country do not have the equal opportunity or do not feel what it is to be president, there will continue to be this mistrust and a sense of injustice. That is without a doubt. And while democracy is fair, it's simply the best option we have, but not the fairest. So there are certain regions that by population are at an advantage. So while not asking we discard this, I think it needs to take a lot of introspection. Maya Born over there made a point. If you take this to the North Central, sir, who will it be for? Is it the Nupe people, the brilliant Ibibio people, the Igala people? In my little experience in Nigeria, whenever you do this, every tribe in every state will also come out and say it's their time. Merit prevails, sir. I think part of the reason why this sense of injustice continues to go on is because of the failure of governance, the failure of social equity. So, Mr. Speaker, I implore that we do not set a dangerous precedent and put it in the Constitution without due diligence, which I'm sure the Constitutional Review Committee will do so. But while it tackles injustice, I must agree with the previous speaker. This could really set us back. And finally, unfortunately, we are but human beings. What happens in the event of death? May God bless the soul of President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, but I guess he passed away at a time when it was, quote unquote, the time of the North. And the Vice President comes in. Is it actually fair to ask a Vice President to step down in the event of the unfortunate occurring? I think we should still adhere to good governance and provide our people.
Honorable
Thank you so much.
Oshaba. Thank you, Honorable Oshaba.
So have you seen that picture on my screen? This is a guy who parades himself as a bandit negotiator. You will look at down there on my screen. That is his picture with Shegumi handing cash to the bandits. He has called on the government of Tinubu, Nurubadu, okay, and every other body paramilitary in the security architecture that they should cut the Fulani'S and have a sit down to talk. That Israel, even considering how sophisticated they are in terms of security, still find it needful to have a discussion with Hamas. They also said that Donald Trump, USA, also had conversations with the Taliban. My question to this young man, Mr. Shehu, Professor Shehu, or whatever his name is are you telling me that the Fulani'S are at the same level with Taliban and Hamas? Because they have to be on the same level if Tinubu and the Nigerian government will have to prioritize them for a sit down. Are the Fulani'S equally terrorists just like the Hamas and the Taliban? That's my question. Because what we have going on in the country is this man wants a preferential attention. They cannot live in that reality that this day government is not giving all this element preferential treatment. All the Fulanization agenda that Buhari initiated at the very dawn of his politics, of his tenure in 2015. When Buhari came on board, he called the Fulani's global citizens. He said their cattle ranching and rearing was a federal project, hence their cows are federal asset. Anybody who is not of the Fulani extraction, if you come out and cry that these guys have invaded your farms, they will somehow, some way, the Attorney General of the Federation back then, Malami, will come out and tell you you are the one at fault, that you have planted your crops on the grazing route. Okay? As at that time, it was recorded that Bello Turji came to prominence. There was a time Bello Turji in a month was able to earn nothing less than 5 billion, where he got the capacity to buy, very sophisticated assault rifles, bought anti-carriers, guns, and all that. So you see now that when this element who keep parading themselves as one Nigerianist, who keep parading themselves as, the patriots of this country. Imagine them pushing a president to go and negotiate. For as long as I've been alive, I know that the USA don't negotiate with terrorists. They don't. I know that the USA, out of hunger of the excesses of the Afghanistans and all that, they invaded Afghanistan and the Taliban were under siege for over approximately 20 years. It wasn't negotiation. They didn't have to sit down with them. It was until the Americans found out that this war is fruitless and maybe they've achieved most of the things they intend to achieve. They left. To this very day, the Taliban are still very active in Afghanistan. So if the Fulani's, because this man is a Fulani man, he's not a middle belter man, okay? He's a Fulani man. If this man will come and speak for the interest of the Fulani above the Yorubas agitators, the Igbo agitators, I mean, why are the Igbos? Why are the professors in the southeast? Why are the professors in the southwest? Considering the fact that it is Tinubu that is there, Yoruba man, why are they not telling Tinubu to have a sit down with the Yoruba agitators? They always have that sense of entitlement. They always have that supremacy tendencies and, believe that it doesn't matter if other tribes do not get it, we must have to get it. And this is why you see most of the time they are very aggressive, very much against this guy who's there today. And I've heard, I've listened, I've watched some reviews from some of my subscribers who are saying, am I defending Tinubu? No. But can you not see how the northern oligarchs, how the Fulani's, how on earth will you come out and say that Nigerian government needs to have a sit down with Fulani? You specifically stated that. You streamlined them. Are the Fulani's, are they special breed? Right? Are they not born out of the spermatozoa that comes from the two balls of a man? Are they born with a sword or are they born with a crown? That we have to treat them, we have to cater for them, we have to care them, like nurture them like fragile eggs. And this is why Nigeria will never move forward. Right? This is why Nigeria will never move forward. In another news that I saw,